Okay, so there's true fetish, okay? And in the clinical sense, a fetish is something that somebody actually requires in order to get aroused, okay? So fetish can be like, people talk about fetish light, or people talk about, but then there are true fetishes where people actually require feet, or, okay, let's think about the extreme fetishes, right?
Okay.
And so this is the dark side of this, right?
Okay.
So let's think, like, let's put feet there, but it doesn't have to be dark. But then you could think like feces, dead bodies, right? Bestiality. This is dark stuff. Exactly. It's an immediate, so we have circuits in our brain that immediately give us the reaction you just give. You put your head back. It's kind of like, get me away from that topic.
He was
get me away.
going in.
Yeah, he was excited.
Just knocking it back.
Right, so our brain tends to put us into approach types, which we call appetitive, like smell in, the odor, taste, you want to get close to something, or aversive, right? Animals have this, humans have this. Okay, but if you think about the classic fetishes, all of those, feet historically had the potential to be sites of infection, right? Historically, not now, right? We wash our feet, we have socks, we have shoes. Dead bodies, obviously very infectious. What do we do with dead bodies? We preserve them when we get them into the ground, or we cremate them, depending on your leanings, whatever. But you try and not get infected by them. This has been known a long time. Things like feces are contagious, right? We know this, that it's putrid, or vomit. These things are
Can we
putrid,
just
they're
keep it at
infectious.
feet? I don't like being
This is a
grouped in
harsh
with-
way to start off the discussion. But
But
if you think about it, all of these tend to evoke, for most people, an aversive response. You want to get away from it.
Yeah.
So there are people who have this appetitive approach to things that are very infectious. And a lot of the fetishes that at their extreme reflect a kind of, I don't want to say miswiring, but a flip in what normally happens, right? When you see vomit, you don't go, I'm gonna take a sniff of that. But when you smell fresh baked cookies, you're like, I'm gonna take a smell, I'm gonna bring in.
That's how I feel about feet.
Exactly, okay.
Cookies. Yeah.
Okay, so.
Feet are like cookies.
So the thing here is people don't develop fetishes to like water bottles or to tables or to light posts. It's always to things that, so there's this kind of edginess of, it's like they're sort of dancing between aversive and appetitive, and that's what makes it edgy. Leather is another fetish, right? And this has to do with like animal hides. People think, now a lot of this is speculation, because we don't really know how all of this evolved. But okay, so that's extreme fetishes. But then there are people who have they like a nice, clean, beautiful foot.
Yo, the way you said that,
right? Exactly.
You see me go appetitive, or whatever that was.
Or the nice, or the contour.
I leaned in.
Or the contour.
Describe that.
Contour
or the contour.
is arch. Yeah.
The contour, right?
His corduroys are short
right.
now.
Or the contour. Or you think about like for some people, they like toes, or they like or they will like leather is like a turn on to them, right? Where a lot of what we think of as appetitive kind of sexual arousal type things are right at that edge. Like, everybody knows or should know, right? I think it's well known that like a little bit of leg, like a little hint, like what's the slit up the side of the skirt? It's a hint, right? It's very different than less clothing overall. It's a hint at what's there. And the way the nervous system works is through contrast. You only see light objects through dark objects and so on. So this like playing of this sort of playing of things that are
where you see each one of the toes. It's like, that's a hint.
Exactly, it's the hint, right? So now we're into the realm of sort of like
me with those
teeth,
things,
exactly.
And sometimes on the subway they'll like wiggle them like that. I'm like, you better stop that.
Right. So if you look historically at clothing, you can think of like Victorian era clothing, or like the high collar, everything covered, just the face, the pasty face. Or you think about like if you watch that show Mad Men, or when there are these lines in there where they're like shorts are getting skirter, skirts are getting shorter. Excuse me. That's my Lex Dixia coming back. What you can imagine that during the 60s in particular, and in the 70s, like clothing was moving from less and less of a hint and more of a reveal. Nowadays, we are living in a time where there is a lot of reveal, right? I mean, it's pretty incredible, right, how much clothing has evolved. But so I do want to just frame up that there's like classic fetish that can actually be a clinical issue, because people can't get aroused without exposing themselves to dangerous infection, right? That's sort of the extreme. But then there's this kind of subtle playing of hints and hinting and suggestion and tea.